Hi everyone! Today I wanted to try painting a model with darker skin tone. I recently had a painting session with a friend and she noticed how lightly I painted skin tones. I guess it's sort of a weakness of mine that I kind of wanted to tackle. It made me realize how I've never really painted anyone with brown skin before, which is kind of ironic considering I live in a tropical country. Browsing through my Pinterest board, I chose a model I found interesting and started to sketch out her form. Once the sketch was done, I lightly went through it with my kneaded eraser and grabbed my handy spray bottle to reactivate my watercolor paints. Here I'm just using my flat brush to chisel out the planes of her face. This brush has synthetic hair, which makes controlling the strength of my paints easier since it can't really hold that much water. Now I switched to a larger brush for her hair as I wanted to create an interesting mixture of colors for the initial wash. The first thing that I did was fill it out with clear water first, so the pigments could blend into each other more seamlessly. As you can see, there wasn't really this one set color that I used. I wanted just a mix of violets and blues and even yellowish brown to make her hair more interesting. One of the things that I noticed about this reference photo was how strong the pose of the model was. I liked how the camera was coming from a slight angle below, and her shoulders pulled slightly back to just give the sense of confidence, which is kind of a theme that I'm going for this year. I'm gonna feel more confident in myself and in my artwork. I honestly don't post much because I don't think my life is very interesting, but I'm trying to change that this 2025. Watercolors usually take me a lot of time of pre-planning. I'd like to think of where the darkest values were and what color mixes to use. These are the things that I work out with pencil drawings and trying my paints on thumbnails before going on to the bigger piece. I have to admit that in the middle of painting this, I got that, oops, I didn't do those things. But since this was a doodle, it was something that I just wanted to paint for fun. I kind of just jumped straight into the artwork and forgot everything else. I remember when I was just starting out with watercolor, I think my first serious set was the Ganzai Tambi, and I'd be so careful just testing out each color on a scrap piece of paper before committing it to the final artwork. After years of practice and just trying to get good at this medium, I think I have a better handle of watercolors and how they behave. And this has been a palette that I've used for years now, so I'm very familiar with how the color pigments mix with each other. Now that I'm much more practiced with it, it just feels more of an extension of pencil sketch for me. Hence why this portrait feels more like a doodle than a study. I think once you've reached a certain point of mastery in the medium, then it can get out of the way of creating the piece so that you can focus more on making the artwork rather than fighting the medium. As I laid down the second layer of this painting, my focus here was more on preserving the white areas and softening out the edges of the paint. If I wanted to be serious about blending out her skin, I could probably do that with colored pencil. There's this YouTuber that I follow that I highly admire called Lioba Bruckner, who does this mixed media technique so well. I'm honestly kind of obsessed with her channel. She does these hyper realistic faces with mythological themes in her paintings. And she uses watercolor, gouache, and other mediums to make her piece so much better. Her attention to detail is something that I wish I had, and it's a skill that maybe I could work towards this year. I actually bought some Holbein gouache, but I'm a bit hesitant to use it. I saw how Ham Reeb does it using tiling techniques, and it's such a different approach than what I'm used to. I'll probably need a lot more practice before I can be confident enough to paint with it on camera. At this point, I'm more or less done with the second layer and have started to define certain areas of the painting. Currently doing her hair. I love how this turned out. I love the stage where I could define more of the curls in her hair, and it really made the values make sense again in my brain. A lot of artists talk about this fugly stage of your painting and how you push through it. I guess for me, that's the second layer. And up to that point, your painting will look a bit like a mess. But once you've laid down the darkest paint on the third layer and have started to render certain features, that's when things start to fall into place. I also wanted to talk briefly about the sketchbook that I'm using. It's actually a recent purchase that I made online. It's a 50% cotton watercolor sketchbook from Paul Rubens, and I chose the cold press version since that was what I'm used to. I was expecting it to be a bit lumpy like the Canson paper since it's only 50% cotton, but it was more textured than I was expecting. As you can see here, now that the camera is close up, there's a lot of grooves that I feel like interrupts from the painting experience. I guess I shouldn't have expected too much since this was their cheaper option. Maybe it was because I tried their good paper first that I was disappointed with this lesser quality version. Watercolor is a fun medium because of how it flows on the page, something that was missing with the sketchbook. And the paints tended to stain more easily than I was used to. There was a part there where I was trying to lift her eyebrows because I was trying to fix it while I painted, which is not a good idea. I should have spent more time sketching this out, but it wouldn't lift off the page. I guess when you're trying to layer a lot of paint on top of each other, it's beneficial to have a paper that absorbs the paint so that it doesn't disturb the layers underneath. I wanted to talk briefly about my goals for 2025. I've been seeing a lot of artists express their creative goals for this year, and I guess I felt inspired to do the same. I used to draw every day and post a lot on social media. I didn't really have a set style like other artists did. I have a friend, her name's AJ Duanya, and she does these very cute, kawaii art style that she's so consistent on. But I tend to lose interest when I draw a specific style over and over again. I just drew however I felt like, whatever I was in the mood for. Sometimes I'd be drawing realistic girls like this. Other times it would be very cartoon, Disney-fied characters. I had this dream of becoming a children's book illustrator, which has come true in a certain sense. Because of that, I would push myself to do backgrounds and do storyboard type of things. As I've made art a full-time living, I kind of fell off my creative practice. Rather than draw on my off time, I'd rather hang out with friends or go out with family. Even just Netflix and chill sounds more appealing at times. If ever I did draw something, I just didn't feel the need to post about it like I used to. I guess it didn't feel like a big deal as it did before. It was something that I just did for work, something that I did on a daily basis. I didn't really feel very proud of what I was able to make. And I realized that I thrived on doing crafts that challenged me and gave me a sense of progress. Since I reached a level of skill in painting portraits specifically, it didn't really feel as challenging and as fun as it used to be. So I guess the question was, what could I do to challenge myself again? One thing was to improve my visual library. I wasn't particularly interested in painting landscape or still lives, but I do want to improve my perspective skills. To draw more full-bodied figures, not just portraits. And these might be just in my private sketchbook, which I use for studies and improving my art, since I don't really feel like making a full-blown painting out of them. But maybe once all the pages are filled, I could do a flip through and show them to you. I've actually already started this project late last year, and I was pleasantly surprised at how much my skills have grown now compared to just a few years ago. Before, I would be impatient, rushing to get the sketch done. Once the pose was roughly on the paper, I kind of lost interest in continuing the sketch. Maybe it was because I was in the animation industry before, where we had to do hundreds of drawings just to meet the quota of the week, that I prioritized speed over quality. But now I notice that I'm also very intrigued with just the subtle bend of knees, the details of the shoes, and just constantly seeing where I could push the pose just a bit further to get the feeling that I had when I looked at the reference photo. Second goal that I have for this year is learning how to teach others how to paint. A friend of mine invited me to teach a workshop for OMF Lit, which was such an honor. It was so fun. Everyone seemed to enjoy it, and they were able to follow along with the worksheets that I gave out. But I couldn't help feel like I could do better. It's one thing to be good at painting or drawing, and a completely different skill to be able to teach someone else to do what you do. The thought of being able to walk someone through my process so that they could be able to produce the same or maybe similar results as you felt very challenging and exciting at the same time. It would really tap a different side of my brain and force me to learn how to explain my process well, put feelings into words, which I'm not good at. Hence this channel idea. I kind of want to explore that in YouTube, trying to explain my process to other people. So if you want to contribute, then you can do so by commenting down below whatever questions you have for my process, and I'll try my best to answer you in my next video. Like and subscribe so that you don't miss future videos, and I guess I'll see you next time. Bye!